Hello, today I'm talking to Eizabeth Ward. Eizabeth is a registered dietitian, and she's co-author of a book entitled The Menopause Diet Plan. So thank you very much for sparing me the time today.
Yes, my pleasure.
Okay, so I know your book has got a really interesting subtitle. So what's the subtitle for the book?
It's a natural guide to hormones, health, and happiness.
Okay, well, I think there's lots of people who want that. So let's get started. So tell me about your approach.
So our approach is very level-headed, very science-based, certainly not any quick fixes involved. It's really an approach that you can live with for the rest of your life. So I know I don't know what the average age of menopause is in the UK, but in the US, it's about 51. And so the statistics show that, a woman could live up to 40% of her life after menopause. And we really need to plan for that and to prepare for that. So you're not only just living your life, you're living a fun, productive, happy life that's relatively free of chronic diseases. I mean, the other thing that we sometimes lose sight of when we talk about menopause is that we're still aging. At the same time, we're going through menopause and we're getting older. So they're two things that are often intertwined.
Right. So you're not going to offer me 2 weeks to have a flat belly or anything like that then?
No, if I could, I would offer it to myself and I would take that offer and run with it.
Okay, so what sort of, do you advocate a particular type of diet or a particular approach?
So we like to call our eating plan a mashup between the Mediterranean diet, or Mediterranean eating style, I should say, and the DASH diet, which is such a great way to help lower the risk for heart disease and high blood pressure. So what we found also in our research was that women over 50 need more protein. So we've included more protein and in doing so have cut out some of the more refined carbohydrates that aren't staples of the diet. Let's say, cookies, cake, candy. You don't need those to live. I mean, those are foods that you love and that you enjoy the taste of. But at the same time, we have a very practical attitude, which is, 90% of the time or 80% of the time, as long as you're eating well and the way that we describe in the book, you really are going to feel good. But you need to have fun. And if you want to have, 1 or 2 cocktails on the weekend, if you want to have chocolate every day, which is something that I do, then do it. You have to live. You have to live at the same time that you're trying to take care of yourself.
Yeah, I think there's lots of people who go on an extreme diet, which lasts for, I don't know, 2 days or 2 weeks, but eventually they go. So it's really important to find a diet that you can live with. So you mentioned that what you do is a mixture of the Mediterranean diet, and I think people will be largely familiar with that, but maybe you can just recap on that a bit, and the DASH diet, which I think a lot of people will be much less familiar with. So can you talk about both of those for us?
Sure. So the Mediterranean style of eating is based on grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, seafood, some cheese, some eggs, not so much red meat, lots of olive oil and wine, if that's what you like. You don't have to have wine. Whereas the DASH diet is same. It's mostly plant-based. It's heavy on plant foods, nuts, seeds, soy, let's say, instead of meat, maybe in many cases, and also dairy. So low-fat dairy is actually a staple of the DASH diet. So and that's really low-fat milk or yogurt, not so much cheese, because one of the advantages of the DASH diet is that it helps to lower high blood pressure. So cheese has a lot of sodium in it, so it's only in there a little bit. So it's really, as I said, a mashup between the two with the added extra protein in there that we found through our research women do need to help build and retain lean tissue mass.
Okay, so how much, can you give us an idea of how much protein you would want women, postmenopausal women, to eat in an average day? Give us some idea of what that looks like.
Sure. So, once you hit about 50, it's not only menopause, it's also age.
Yeah.
So once you hit 50, at least 1 gram per kilo per day. So that could be, for the average woman, I don't know, anywhere between 70 and 90 grams of protein a day. Now, when I say grams, it's not the grams of food that I'm talking about necessarily, it's the grams of protein within that food. So for example, 3 ounces of chicken would have 21 to 25 grams of protein. A glass of milk, 8 ounces of milk, 240 milliliters has, about 7 or 8 grams of protein. So it's going to differ for different foods.
Right. Right. I mean, I think I'm vegan, so I don't eat chicken or milk. And so I'd be really good if you could suggest some of the things that people like me or people who are trying to reduce their intake of animal products can have instead.
So for, let's say, edamame, so soybeans, not the roasted kind, just the ones that I buy them frozen. I don't know how they come over there, but
yeah, you can get them frozen. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, that's like a staple in my house to have in the freezer. And 1/2 cup, I think, has something like, I don't know, 11 or 12 grams of protein. I mean, it really has a lot. And the other thing about the plant-based proteins is that they also have fiber, and which means they're incredibly filling. So again, tofu is a great choice. I have a long list of the protein quantities in the book of many animal and many plant foods. I just can't remember them off the top of my head, but certainly quinoa is a great choice. Any sort of soy foods are a great choice. The whole foods, not the soy supplements.
Yeah.
So we don't really advocate powders and things like that, but if you're having a hard time getting all the protein in, then they could be just a little bit in terms of supplements.
Yeah. I mean, I actually find personally that I recover better. I weight train quite seriously, and so I usually have a protein shake, which is sometimes hemp rice and soya or whatever afterwards, and then I find I recover better. I'm less tired afterwards, so that I found that works really well for me. But I am putting in the work, so maybe I need it.
You do. Well, you do. I mean, the thing about the protein requirements, I know here in the US, they haven't been revised for decades. And I could fill, this room, my office, with research that says that older people need more protein. They're just as capable of making as much muscle as younger people. They need more protein to do it. And the thing, if there's one thing that I can recommend to everyone that's listening and watching, is that you really need to preserve your muscle. You really need to do resistance training at least twice a week, possibly 3 times a week. Because that is your quality of life insurance. That means that you, as you get older, will be more mobile and less dependent, that you'll be happier, that you'll actually be in better health because you have more muscle on board. But in order to build muscle, you have to feed your body the protein that it needs.
Yeah. So I can imagine somebody listening to this and going, hang on a minute, I want to lose weight, and now you're telling me to eat more protein. How does that work?
Perfect. It works perfectly. It's actually one of the solutions that we suggest in the book. Many women's diets are very carbohydrate heavy. And, the thing about protein foods is that, I've never met a protein food I did not like from a nutritional standpoint as a registered dietitian, because they all offer something. So seafood is very rich in omega-3 fats, also has protein, also has vitamins and minerals. While soy foods have a lot of phytoestrogens, and they also have vitamins and minerals and healthy fats. I mean, they all offer something. but the one thing that they offer in common is that they help to keep you fuller for longer. And they also take a few more calories to actually digest and use by the body. So you're burning a few more calories when you are eating more protein. I'll take it. Even if it's only 10, 15, 20 calories a day, I'll take it. Because at this point, we're operating on a razor thin calorie margin. The older we get, the fewer calories we need. Why? Because we've lost lean muscle tissue. That is the main thing. We're also less active. We're not chasing little kids around. We're not running around all day doing errands and cleaning the house maybe. We may feel active, but we're not burning as many calories. So what do? You focus on a higher protein intake and get rid of most of the time, as I mentioned before, the biscuits, the cake, the cook, even the little things that you pick on all throughout the day. And I can guarantee you that a higher protein diet will keep you from picking on the other things that you may not want during the day. And your appetite will actually be suppressed a little bit.
Right, interesting. I read some interesting information about nuts and seeds, and which you have mentioned. And of course, not only are they good sources of protein, they're also very good sources of minerals and so on. And there seems to be research that we should all be eating a handful of nuts and seeds a day, and that actually adding that doesn't make you put on weight. And I think they're not totally certain why, but one possibility, as you say, is that you feel fuller. And I think also if your body's getting the minerals and such that it needs, it's less likely to crave any food because it's more satiated.
So interesting about nuts. Just a handful a day, so what would fit into a small palm, about a quarter cup, is actually helpful with weight control. There's a lot of fat in nuts. I mean, nuts I wouldn't probably seek out for me as someone who eats animal foods. I probably wouldn't seek that out as my number one source of protein because of all the fat associated with it. Yet, when we add it as a snack in studies, and there's plenty of research that says this, and this is true about walnuts, peanuts, almonds, cashews, probably translates to hazelnuts as well, that, if you eat a small handful a day, that you will actually feel fuller. And you may not eat as many calories at dinner, let's say, or as many calories after dinner. So there's a lot going on there. The second thing that's going on there, very, very interesting research, and they have not changed the nutrient labels to reflect this, but there's been research done at the United States Department of Agriculture that says that nuts actually have fewer calories, once they get into the body, than the package label says. And it could be significant. I think walnuts is like 25 or 30% fewer calories. So, and the reason is because, you're chewing them, but you don't always quite chew them all up. But if you had like a walnut butter, which was already all broken up, the calories would be the same. But when you're eating the whole food, you just don't seem to get as many calories from it. Fascinating. Yeah. I can't wait for the labels change to reflect that.
Yeah, that's it. That's really interesting. So we should be concentrating on eating whole nuts, not nut butters.
Oh yeah, I mean, sure, if you want a little bit of nut butters, go ahead, but I do prefer the whole. So the less processed it is, the fewer calories you'll actually derive from it, and yet you'll still stay full.
Yeah. So I think what you're saying is that when you're overweight, when you put on weight, after the menopause, it's partly because you're getting a reduction in your lean muscle.
And that's aging.
And that's aging. You can counteract that by lifting weights and by eating more protein.
Sure. Yeah. Any sort of resistance training will work too. I mean, you and I lift weights, so that's what I always tend to say. But the resistance bands, would work too. Sometimes your own body weight is enough. If you're just starting out, just doing squats without any body weight, that's resistance. Also, certain forms of yoga are considered resistance. I don't know what they are because I'm not an expert in yoga. So there's more than just weight training. I don't want people to to hear this and say, oh gosh, I don't ever want to go near a weight. But yes, so that's one of the reasons why our calorie needs are going down. It's actually aging, and lean muscle tissue, we start to lose that around age 30, and it's just gradual, but it feels like someone pushed a button when we're 50 and we all of a sudden wake up and we're like, wait a minute, where did all the tone go? It's because that's part of it with the losing estrogen. And where did that belly weight come from? That has to do with estrogen and not so much aging.
So is there anything you can do about that? I mean, about changing your hormones by diet, by exercise, by lifestyle, so that...
Sure. There's something you can do. It's not entirely foolproof, meaning you probably won't get your 30-year-old body back, which is something that, we all have to accept. Again, that's a part of aging. If you look at men, the same things happens to them. I mean, their muscle tone starts to go, their skin starts to get saggy, they start to gain weight around the belly. However, you can mitigate some of that by making sure that you're exercising as much as you can. And in here, the guidelines are about 30 minutes a day of moderate to vigorous exercise, moderate intensity, 5 days a week at least. These are the minimums, and 2 sessions of weight training. And also really looking at your diet, taking a long, hard look at your diet and seeing where are the extras that can go. And I'm not talking about really slashing calories, but I'll give you my own example. I gained about 10 pounds after menopause. And I thought, because I was completely indignant. I am a dietitian. This cannot happen to me. I know everything. And this is before we wrote the book. And, I really took a look at what I was doing, and I hadn't changed my exercise routine, but, I was feeling like, oh, I can, have a bit of that cake, and I can have some of that ice cream, and I can stand up at the counter at night and eat chocolate chips, if I want, because my weight's fine. And then it just sneaks up on you because your body has changed. And of course, where was it? In my belly. And that was not a wonderful thing for me. And that has to do with estrogen. So what did I do? Well, again, I examined my diet. I changed my exercise a little bit, challenged myself more with my weights. And I was very careful. I've probably lost about 5 or 6 pounds, but I'm not sure I'll ever lose the rest. And, I know if women are out there and they're saying, well, I need to lose 40 pounds or I need to lose 50 pounds. It's all the same. It's really all the same. You probably get to a point where you have, done as much as you can do. And then there's a point where you need to accept. And Hillary, my co-author, is much better at acceptance than I am. I mean, she's the one who talks me into accepting things many, many times. So I will give her credit for my newfound, because I'll tell you, my mother lived to be 92 and she didn't accept anything. I mean, she really went down, trying really, really hard and exercising probably up until she was 90. So that's my attitude, but Hillary's a little bit more like, well, there's only so much you can do. And I do believe that, but let's get going and see what we can do. That's really our point.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with that. I mean, I'm always banging on about people need to be curious. And one of the things you need to be curious about is how fit and well you can be, right. How strong you can be, how flexible you can be, how toned you can be. And I think for a lot of people, particularly people who haven't done exercise and haven't looked after their diet during their life, actually, as they become older, particularly if they've got more time, they can, and more wisdom, hopefully, they can actually end up not with a 30-year-old body, but with a 60 or 70-year-old body that they can be proud of, because they've put the work in and done it. And of course, it's not just about, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, it's not just about what you look like. No. I mean, it's much more important than that. Yeah.
And that's really what the whole book is about. It's not about appearance, it's about health.
And happiness, you said.
And happiness, of course. Well, I think if you're healthy, you're happy, or you have a better chance of being happy.
Absolutely.
And when we say healthy, we mean healthy physically and mentally. Now, we're not mental health experts, but we understand that depression and anxiety is more common at midlife, and we touch on that. We touch on how, you know, diet and exercise can help with that. But, you know, we talk about bone health, heart health, brain health, preventing cancer. Although menopause doesn't cause cancer, as I said, we're aging and we need to know how to eat to prevent that as well. So we talk about, you know, alcohol and the effects of alcohol on your health. So we talk about how to really bolster every part of your body with only one way of eating. There's not one way to eat for your bones, one way to eat for your heart, one way to eat to boost muscle. It's one way of eating. It's healthy, it's enjoyable. And like you said, you should give it a try in order to see how far you can go with it personally.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people will find they can go much further than they expect. Particularly, I think, if they don't focus all the time on losing the weight, but also look at, you know, how maybe mentally they're feeling clearer, less brain fog, or how their skin is looking better or whatever, because they change their diet or do the exercise. Right. It's the whole package you get, isn't it?
It's the whole package. And I really think that energy, you know, feeling energetic is so important, because women are struggling with hot flashes at night. So night sweats, hot flashes during the day. They're not getting the sleep they need because they maybe are perhaps more anxious at this time of life over what's happening to them, or the fact that their GP is not listening to their problems and their symptoms, and maybe they're asking to have HRT prescribed. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things going on there. And if you don't feel energetic and if you're not sleeping, it's really, really difficult to take care of some of the other, you know, issues surrounding food and exercise. And the other thing is that, like you said, if you haven't had to deal with these issues at all until now, this could be a big surprise to you, where you do feel like, you know, you ate relatively what you wanted, you know, for the last 45, 50 years, and now you're really not able to do that. And, you know, that's a mindset that you have to get into. Like, this is a new phase of life. And let's see, you know, let's see if you can make some wiser food choices and lifestyle choices to feel the best that you can.
Yeah. And I mean, certainly some people will say, you know, they change their diet, they increase stuff, reduce stuff, you know, do the right thing. And then people will say, I wish I'd done this 20, 30 years ago, because I feel so much better in myself.
I know, I know. And, you know, you can lead a horse to water, as the saying goes, but you can't make them drink. And, you know, and there's so many quick fixes out there on the internet, and it's just so tempting to go after those rather than saying, you know, I think I'll try to eat more fiber. I'll try to go to bed half an hour earlier. You know, I'll quit smoking. I'll have one glass of wine at night instead of two. Just the little things. And, you know, just give one of them a try. You don't have to even overhaul your whole life to feel better. And maybe you won't feel better. I don't know.
I think most people do, if they start to make some of these positive changes. I think people are often surprised how quickly they feel better.
Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, just, you know, being able to get the sleep you need is really massive. And people are having so many problems at this stage of life with sleeping. So sometimes I feel bad saying to women, you know, you really should sleep more, because I don't think I've slept in the last, you know, since I've had kids, I don't know, 26 years, you know, and so I'm not a great sleeper. I never was, but the women that mentioned to me their hot flashes and how they're really not sleeping at night is just Wow. I mean, though, you really need to get help for that. There's really no nutritional or lifestyle solution to that. There is.
I would disagree.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, from my own experience,
Oh.
my own experience is that hot flushes, as we call them in the UK, or hot flashes, the amount I got was very much related to how stressed I was.
Oh.
So for me, it became a signal of saying to myself, okay, I've been having these hot flushes all night. What's going on in my life right now that's stressing me?
Mm-hmm.
And it could be, I've been working too hard and not relaxing enough. I've been eating crap food. I'm angry with somebody and I haven't expressed that anger or found some other way to deal with it, and so for me, it became actually quite a welcome sign that I needed to do something.
Yeah.
It was a signal, there's something going on in your life you need to sort out. Mm-hmm. So for several years, I made some quite major changes in my life, which were completely governed by hot flushes.
Wow. Well, that's great. I mean, it's good to know that stress was your signal and that you had to reduce that. So stress leads to a very high levels of cortisol, which is a hormone that can actually lead to weight gain. Yeah. So you can see how they're all these things are interconnected, and not getting enough sleep on its own without the cortisol plays havoc with your hunger and satiety hormones as well. I don't know if I can remember being completely and utterly sleep deprived with kids, with infants, and just, eating anything with sugar or carbohydrate to make myself feel better. Yeah. And, that's the same routine that you can get into, in this phase of life. And you just never really feel fully satisfied, and you're not making the right choices. And then you're not sleeping at night. So it's just, it goes round and round. Your example is the perfect example of how it's all, connected. But I think that sometimes people do, think that there's something they could eat to reduce their hot flashes. And you said your poor diet was one of the signs. That's something, there's not a lot of research that bears out that diet alone is going to help, but your poor diet may have been part of it was
just like if for 2 or 3 days I ate a lot of biscuits, chocolate, or something like, an ice cream and cake, then I would start to have more hot flushes, and I would go, okay, I need to, settle my diet down again.
Well, that's interesting, because I think everyone has to take a look at that. I mean, they have to know, like, what is it that's triggering you? Some women have migraines and they have food triggers. I have migraines. I don't have food triggers. So everyone's different. Yeah. But I think we can just all agree on the fact that having hot flashes at night is just no good.
Yes, absolutely. So tell us the title of your book again. Have you got a copy there by any chance that you can wave at me?
Yes, I happen to have a copy.
All right. Okay, so it's the Menopause Diet Plan, a natural guide to managing hormones, health and happiness. And it's by you and your co-author, who's Hilary Wright, I think. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. And if people want to get more of you, then I think they need to go to look at your Facebook page and your Instagram account. Is that right?
Right. And they're both Menopause Diet Plan.
Right.
On Instagram and on Facebook.
Okay. Well, that's great. So thank you very much indeed. I've enjoyed talking to you. It's been really interesting. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.